Shalom, salam, et coucou. This video will be, as it is something that children should hear instead of being indoctrinated. It's too spicy because it uses something hot science. So I make it age restricted and hope that adults that are understand what they should not do and what they should support. A kid can want and not giving consent. If I show my dog here, this is fettuccine. If a dog eats chocolate, then he dies. If she sees chocolate and it smells like sugar, she wants it. She doesn't give consent to be intoxicated. So that's want and consent. If I give a few euros, thank you very much. If you give a few euros to an young adult, he will plan what to do with it. If I give it to a 9-year-old, he will buy sugar. And if I give it to a baby, the baby will eat the money itself. Because between that is a thing called brain development. And if you don't develop, you would be called retarded. Which we can't say now. Do you think that retarded people will feel offended if they even don't get it? Or will the people that play retarded get offended because they are caught? So you're born with the maximum of your brain cells you will ever have as a baby. And the first thing is okay, let's connect everything. So it's very diffusive, and the baby doesn't know at that moment, do I smell light or do I see light or do I hear light? Because then it has to sort out, oh no, I should use the connection for light and seeing. That works more, and that's called pruning. Get rid of what is too much. I refer now of some results of a meta-study of, not meta-study, it mentions several other studies in the article Brain Development During Puberty, A State of Science by Sarah Jane Blackmore and Suparna Chowdhury. And but you can look up if you think that I'm cheating. I'm talking about the how we are 2021, so we have very open, very free to express that we have XY persons and frontal persons. And the frontal person's hormone is also called estrogen, and the XY persons is called testosterone. Both kind of persons are constructed from biologically by producing both hormones in a different balance. So if one hormone does something good for intelligence, it does it also by the others, only the balance is different. For example, surprise, in frontal persons have more estrogen, and estrogen proliferates fat. Why is that positive? Because most of the brain, what does the brain uses for isolation of its cables. You have the neuron, and around that they have the axon, and the dendrite axon is like sending out messages by cable, and receiving by cable is dendrites. And if they are not isolated, you don't receive very good the signal. So the better you can isolate it, the more the body wants not to isolate this stuff, the better, the faster the thoughts go from one neuron to the other. And testosterone is neuroprotective. I told you before that when the baby starts to think that first we have lots, it shows how much neuron do I need to take, and so in this age of our puberty, someone is more forced of how many connections can I make, and there's stay with that in a bundle. If you have a billion neurons without any connection, you're damn stupid. And if you have billions of connections without any neuron, then you're also damn stupid. So the product of both is interesting. And if we would be really oppressive and think that they are mainly XY and frontal persons which produce different sides of kind of how to develop an IQ, then it would be very interesting to give both kind of thinking value, because it's a different kind of thinking which makes things more interesting. But you don't, because it's oppressive. So during puberty, if they had been seen in a study by in 79 already in this kind in the corner by Huttenlocher, and later in the 90s there's from Bourgeois Goldman, Rakic, and then from there was something I think Chinese Wu Pukakai Louis Matterson Louis in 1997. They saw that there had been more proliferation of new synapses during puberty, which is somehow not so surprising. If you can isolate more cables, then you can also build more cables. If you give simply a railroad station more stuff to build, then the probability that it in that moment builds more than when it has nothing is higher. Surprise. And we also see an increase in Christian Clark, fat. No, fat I mean this here is coconut fat, and the color of coconut fat is white because it's fat. So if we have in the brain we have white matter, that means fatty parts. It is not a political statement, and there is in the brain a part from the basal ganglia which do a lot of things. Need melatonin for different reasons, and they are darker. They are called dark matter, and it's not a political statement neither. And the melatonin of the skin only enters into the brain if somebody smashes your skull, which doesn't make intelligent. So stop saying these stupid things that because you have darker skin you can think better, or because the opposite is also not true. There's only one therapy that can augment by 300% your intelligence. Think. I mean, really, you think you are more intelligent than if you don't think. And our species survives because of thinking. So oppressing thinking is like, let's have lesser chances. You also saw increase in white matter. Fat, white matter is fat there. You have more Schwann cells, you have more oligodendrocytes, you have more axons that are myelinized during puberty, and that had been studied by Pfeffer, Mariam Soler, and Ravles, Sipurski, and Lim in 1994. Another study had been in two studies, 1996, one by Gietschel, Lange, by Ribas, Geisen, Vaitutsis, Faust, Hamburger, Kotzuch, Rappaport. And another also was Reis, Singer, Ross, and Dingler in 1996, and another by Guy Blumter, Jeffries, Castellanos, Lewis, C. Debos, Paus, Evans, and Rappaport, and another by Sowell, Holmes, Bath, Jernigan, and Toga in 1999 that found more white matter, more fat myelinization coming in puberty. And we didn't have to split brains in that case. And Fettuccini, was war das Fettuccini? So, puberty, you get more stuff to use, more toys for your brain, called synapses with myelinization and more neurons. Fun stuff. It's, but then you have first to use it. For example, if you want to clean something in your kitchen, you have to bring stuff in there to clean the kitchen. Then you put everything out of the cupboards, and then if in that moment somebody comes in and you ask, what are you doing? Yeah, I'm making order. You come in, everything is in disorder totally. Of course, because if you don't put everything out of the cupboard, out of the fridge to clean it, then it will stink afterwards. And then you clean it, and then put the dish back, and then you have to bring stuff that you first brought in, you have to bring out. It's the cleaning stuff, so you don't cook with soap, but more with like olive oil. And this moment when we are cleaning, this is puberty. And after puberty, we have something it's called post-pubescent proning. And also we get 1999, another study by Sowell Thompson, Tesla and Togan, 2001, and another study in 2004. Goktal, Lidus, Hayashi, Grebstein, Ivayutsi, Nugent, Hermann, Glasen, Toga, Rappaport, and Thompson. People, I think, are not offended that I mispronounce their names because they are intelligent. And so that afterwards you sort out what's necessary here. It's if you, for example, I move very often, and first you have everything in your building, and then you have to put everything where has everything placed. And sometimes there are things that are totally useless, and that's for me a big problem because I don't know how to throw them away. And then I have like first say my goodbyes, and I say, okay, you go into retirement. It's better for me. So, and then you have a first sketch of your person, because even then it's not finished. You have females until 25, and because males have later puberty until 28, still develop. If somebody doesn't has had yet his personality, if you are not yet you, if you are in the morning not really awakened, you didn't have the coffee, and then you ask something, and yeah, sure. Did you give consent? No. So, can now a kid give consent to an adult amusement? No. Can it want it, like the dog wanted chocolate? Yes. Should we give it in that moment? No. Because it can't know, it can't give consent, it doesn't know its personality, the children. So if somebody now normalizes to somebody who, to avoid that somebody has his personality and already seduces or forces, I think more forces, because for me it's pleasurable to evoke pleasure in the other. Only seeing the pleasure that I evoke is, if without it, it's no fun at all. So but I know that if you can simply, from the victims, that it's not fun at all. So the only pleasure is if somebody likes seeing suffering, like sadism. Only that his weapon is the swing, yeah, or somebody is writing something, which we don't talk about, because I hope in future we will talk about, because we had a big advantage when we started to admit what some specimen of males do, because we could limit it. And now it comes unfortunately back, and we should be. And if we discover one crime there, it doesn't make that we annihilate the other one. The goal is simply not to do it anymore, I think. So also that's the reason why we want children not to smoke or drink coffee, because those are stimulants. Now, when you're growing your brain, so you're forming your personality, you now get all this new amazing stuff, and you say, okay, I have now fatty camera make my cables faster. Oh no, or smoke. Also, you don't make the cables faster, and then you never have these fast cables, because you tricked your brain that it had already developed with something that mimicked it, and so you won't reach this potential. To damage your brain while it's still growing is not in your interest. That's the reason why